2-5. Now they're in contention for the NFC East crown as well, Jose. This is just a terrible situation in the NFC East. And even the New York Giants, they're 1-6, a couple more wins, then they could be in contention. That's how crazy this thing is.
Yeah, everybody in that division is missing somebody important. Dak Prescott is out for the Cowboys. Washington is missing people. They've had injuries. Philadelphia is missing their running back, Miles Sanders, and the Giants don't have Saquon Barkley. So there's key personnel missing across that division. It's not helping them, with the wins. They're beating up on each other, but they're losing to everybody else. So if you like that kind of football, hey, that the NFC East is your place. It's tough, because I know in this part of our part of the country, the Cowboys are a popular team here. My father-in-law, I'm thinking of my father-in-law, a huge Cowboy fan. He suffers watching that team. I'm thinking of, you guys saw the video of the guy in the stands who had his head in his hands and he was being consoled by, I guess, was his girlfriend, and from the Cowboys game. And that's kind of what the Cowboys season has been, right? It's just, they have so many diehard fans. They're America's team. When they're down, it's kind of tough, but I think a lot of people also take a lot of joy in that too, right? So there you have it.
It's just not been the right season. Mike Nolan has come in. That defense is just the worst defense in the league. You're giving up almost 40 points a game. That defense is not working out well. You lose your franchise quarterback, and then your main running back Zeke Elliott feels like he has to have everything placed on his shoulders because Dak is out. So now Zeke is pressing harder, and you saw what happened on Monday night against the Cardinals. 2 straight fumbles led to 14 points, and 14 of the 24 points the Cardinals got off turnovers. So it's not a good situation. Then Andy Dalton comes in. He can't hook up with Amari Cooper or Michael Gallup or any of his other targets that he's got there. And it's just the synergy is not there. The connection, the camaraderie, the brotherhood is not there. There's something missing. The link is not there for the Dallas Cowboys, and it shows.
And we already know how bad their defense is struggling. So that's on the side. But now, you mentioned Mike Nolan, the defensive coordinator. Did you guys see the story today where right before he was going to go do a Zoom call with reporters, he got hot sauce in his eye? Like he was rubbing he had like hot sauce or Tabasco sauce or something on his finger, and he put it in his eye, and his eye started to burn. So he had to delay his Zoom call with the media because of that particular incident. So that's just Cowboys season in a nutshell, right? I mean, that's just it right there.
Yeah, some bad and some ugly, going down to some ugly in there. But speaking of which, we also had some ugliness happen this last Sunday. I want to lead off with you, Jose. What was the ugliness or the ugliest of the ugly that you saw this last week in football?
Well, the Cowboys game was pretty putrid, just in the sense that, neither team is very good. I mean, you saw the result. Washington was clearly the better team and outplayed them. But it was not exactly entertaining football. The Thursday night game wasn't all that pretty either. With the Eagles getting the win over the Giants. I tell you what, that game up until the very last play, not a great sight to see. The touchdown there, the game sealing touchdown there with Boston Scott catching the ball, making a great catch there in the corner of the end zone by the pylon to seal that win for the Eagles. To get them that win. That was the play of the night, but for like the first 50-some minutes of the game, it was ugly football. That's my ugliness of the week.
That would be my ugly too. The New York Giants having a 21-10 lead in the fourth quarter, looking like they would actually go on to their second victory. They get a victory in Philadelphia, but they cannot hold. And the Eagles scored 12 points in the fourth quarter to run past them. That was one of the ugly. Another ugly yesterday was the Atlanta Falcons giving up another lead. Todd Gurley cannot avoid scoring a touchdown when he should have just laid down and let the clock run, but he scores a touchdown. And then Matthew Stafford takes his boys down the field, 75 yards in a minute 4, throws a touchdown to TJ Hawkinson. They tie the game, and then Matt Prater kicks an extra point to win the game for the Detroit Lions. Just another in a series of just terrible losses for the Atlanta Falcons this season. Those are my two uglies from Thursday and Sunday.
Well, hopefully this coming week of football, it doesn't get to be so ugly. So I know we'll have some uglies in there, but let's hope it's better. Especially for those teams that have been suffering a bit, it turns around at least some. But enough of the ugliness, and let's turn it around and let's talk some excitement and some October baseball World Series. My favorite, Ed. Oh,
but it's coming to a quick close, Joe. It's going to end in the next couple of days. Either way.
Don't say it. Not yet. It's not over yet. Let's enjoy what's left of it. It can be one game. It may be possibly 2 more games. Let's hope for the latter. I just want to say how phenomenal this World Series has been. Saturday's game, I will start it off with that, was just, I think, one of the best World Series games I've ever seen. Because that was just, you had everything in that game. The ideal, perfect baseball World Series game that you want to see being played off from both teams. And you just had every single factor come into play during that game into the very last moment. It was a literal roller coaster for me. I know Ed, you and I were talking throughout the game, Ed, Jose, too, at the end, we were just like, oh my gosh, what was that? It was just it was amazing to watch.
I was at the Phoenix Rising game on Saturday and I was watching the baseball game on my phone and I'm just like, what in the heck is happening here? I don't understand Dave Roberts. I don't understand his rationale for making the pitching moves. I can tell you right off the top of my head who the shaky guys in that bullpen are. I know he's loyal to his guys. I know he cares. He's got a certain pattern, how he likes to go about it. But it just seems I feel like sometimes they're just so cursed. They've won how many in a row? NL West titles, 8. They've been to the World Series, 3 times in the last 4 years. They're in the driver's seat now, obviously because of the win yesterday, and Kershaw looked great. But I don't understand why you take out Julio Urias after 4 2/3 innings when he's rolling. He's not lights out, but he's doing well. Managers don't think of it in terms of, I want to get my guy a win. But wouldn't it be nice for Julio Urias to say he got a win in a World Series game? That's one part. The other part of it is he wasn't pitching all that badly. When you turn the game over to the bullpen, that's when all the fireworks of offense started happening on both sides. Neither team's bullpen could sustain it. The Rays are so feisty. They're like, you can't put them away. Even if you have, a 3-run lead, their offense hasn't been great in this World Series, but the Dodgers bullpen is always somehow going to let them back into the game. And last night, the Dodgers bullpen got the job done, and Clayton Kershaw pitched so well. But that Saturday game was it was Dodgers postseason baseball in a nutshell. We got to outscore the other team and hope our bullpen doesn't blow it. And then, lo and behold, the bullpen blew it.
Yeah, they did. Trinan gave up 2 runs. Baez gave up 2. And then, of course, Kenley Jansen gave up the 2 in the 9th inning. What a crazy game. That 4th through 8th innings, when both teams were going back and forth, scoring runs, that was some of the most thrilling baseball I've ever seen. And, of course, that bottom of the 9th was one of the craziest endings I think all 3 of us have ever seen in a World Series game. There's probably a game that's never ended that way in a World Series. For Brett Phillips to get that hit, and Randy Arozarena comes around, he thinks he can score, he slips and falls, and he's in no man's land thinking he's going to get thrown out, and then the throw comes in, and it's an errant throw. The catcher thinks he's going to try to do a swipe because he thinks Arozarena is coming in. He loses the ball, and Arozarena comes in. That was one of the craziest endings. And I'm texting, Joe and I are going back and forth on the text. I'm sure she was going crazy back and forth with you, Jose. Just a great ending to a phenomenal game. And, of course, like you said, the Dodgers got that win last night. They're 1 win away, so they could possibly wrap it up tonight. And that would be their first championship since 1988. Been 32 years since the Los Angeles Dodgers would have won a championship. They possibly could get it tonight.
What were a couple of big changes from Saturday to Sunday? We saw Will Smith as the catcher, no longer the catcher in Game 5. It was Austin Barnes, who was basically Clayton Kershaw's personal catcher. And we saw Chris Taylor moved into the infield from center field. Now, those were the 2 guys who were the principal characters in that defensive mess-up that happened with Brett Phillips, allowed to, when he got the game-winning hit. Taylor was the guy who misplayed the ball in the outfield. And Will Smith was the guy who didn't catch the ball at home plate that could have put an easy tag on Randy Arozarena coming around. Right then and there, give Roberts a little bit of credit for making the adjustment defensively. I don't think you see Will Smith, I don't think you see him behind the plate anymore on defense. He's a DH, and that's probably about it.
Jose, do you think the cutoff, man, do you think Max Muncy getting that cutoff, should that have happened, or Taylor should have just thrown it directly to Will Smith? Do you think things could have changed if it went directly to Will Smith?
It looked to me like Taylor was just off balance, and he was just trying to gather the ball and fling it. He was just kind of, it's like, I just got to get this ball to home plate because this guy's coming around. So, I couldn't really tell if he was really trying to hit the cutoff man or if he was just firing it towards somebody in hopes that, the right play would be made.
So much craziness and just, matter of a game or two games, how just everything shifts. Another thing we're seeing with this World Series and Kershaw's like just setting records and just making history. He just surpassed Justin Verlander with most strikeouts in the postseason, up to 206. And, Kershaw, he is a phenomenal pitcher. He's great. He does tend to struggle in the postseason, but if the Dodgers come out on top and they come out as the World Series champs, I have to give it to him to finally, surpass that struggle, because as great of a pitcher he is, he also struggles. We know that the Dodgers pitching can also be a challenge. And one of the things we saw that how that was in Game 4, or just those calls that were being made, and like ask, Dave Roberts is like, what are you doing? Where they're taking out Urias when he was doing phenomenal, great, which is another World Series. He's like the youngest pitcher who's played who's pitched like 6 games in the postseason, I believe, if my mind serves me correctly. But, from that to, leaving in Jansen for, 2 innings when he was struggling, I was, I call that now the Jansen struggle, because how bad it was just seeing that. It's just like, are you going to take him out? I understand his reasoning for it, in a way, but if you have a pitcher that's, struggling that bad, do you really want to leave him in? It's cost you the game. But one of the things that we've seen also throughout this World Series, and Ed and I were talking about it over the weekend, is how much the pitching and those dynamics have changed. You covered the game, Jose, with, it's become an arms race. You don't have, that pitching that you used to have, where you had your guy, your starter, he would go 8-9 innings, you have your reliever. Now it's like you have so many, arms in there. Game 4 was 13 pitchers combined between the Dodgers and the Rays. 319 pitches combined for Game 4, 292 pitches for Game 5. I don't recall that count for the amount of pitchers, but there was still, a large amount. It's just amazing how it has become an arms race, and that pitching and those dynamics have changed. And what, at the same time, it's what makes the game, whether you win or you lose.
There were 9 pitchers in Game 5, Joe.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it's the specialization of the bullpen, right? It's matchups, lefty versus righty, righty versus lefty. It's been trending that way for the last few years. We see it magnified in the postseason of the World Series. These expanded rosters have really had an impact with that, because you do have more pitchers now on both teams. The Dodgers, I think their bench is only like 4 guys on their bench, and the rest of that roster is relievers and starting pitchers. I do like the 3-batter minimum. I like that rule, and I hope that remains, because then it kind of takes, how long are these games already? Like 4 hours every night at least. It will cut down, hopefully, on all the changes and all the visits to the mound and stuff, and cut down on the length of game times going forward if they do keep it that way. Like you said, it is an arms race, and managers are just trying to find those right matchups and hope that it pans out. And as we're seeing in this World Series, it hasn't always panned out. And I think that's the entertainment value for us as fans. We can sit here and say, oh, Kenley Jansen is going to absolutely blow away Brett Phillips, who has never done a darn thing in his baseball career. And here he is, maybe like the 29th man on the Tampa Bay roster, coming up with a huge hit. You guys need to Google his last